Okay, so a few of you had asked how I do patch repairs on a pair of pants to make it look as seamless as possible. This is my technique. You can Google it. Everybody will tell you a different way to do it. So firstly, I have removed the pocket because we had a tear here in the pocket. Most people will actually tell you to cut away your fringe and the frayed edges. I disagree. So we're going to actually use that to rebuild some of that fabric up. I also like to use a tricot interfacing, so I use the rolled ones. I have black and white and then different sizes depending on the tear. So like the 1 inch is probably a little too thin for a tear like this. So I'm going to go with the 2 inch tricot, and then we're going to press and iron everything, and I'm basically going to glue everything down using some spray starch. So I just use the you buy in the store, Faultless brand spray starch. You can make your own. I do that from time to time. So again, we are not going to trim away any of the frayed edges. We're going to use a lot of steam, and we're going to press those frays in the direction that they're lying first and foremost. Just kind of press it, get that steam really heavy, and then we're going to shape the fibers. You can use a brush. This is just it's actually a grill brush with a soft bristle. I also use a wire bristle if I need to, and we're going to comb those fibers in the direction, get them to lay where we want them to. And I'm actually going to use the spray starch now to kind of glue it down. It's kind of like hairspray for the fabric. Okay, so we're going to press this. We don't want to shift them, so I'm just going to press and apply steam. And we're going to get those to stick down, and that's about where we want it. Really take your time on this part because you want those fibers to lie down really well. And I'm using a high heat, about a 4, a little over a 4 on my iron here, because I'm also using a protective shoe on the bottom, which prevents this from getting quite as hot. It's a Teflon foot. Okay. And now we've got our hole diminished. So now we're going to carefully peel it and flip it over. And I'm also using tailor's ham underneath just to help lift it up off the table a little bit. We're going to do the exact same thing to this other side. So I'm going to position the fibers kind of where I want them, give them a light spritz, and then press straight down, add steam. And now we're going to choose our tricot. I'm going to use the 2 inch roll and cut me off a piece that is approximately the size I need. And this has a glue side and a non-glue side. So you always want to put the glue side down. This is what's going to add strength and stability to your pocket. I'm going to put that right where I want it and press again straight down. Hit that with steam, and that'll kind of lock everything in place and hold those fibers together. Give that a second to cool. And now you're ready to take it over to the sewing machine. So we went from a big gaping hole to a more manageable, smaller hole. And now we're going to take the sewing machine and pick our thread, and we're going to sew in a diagonal going with the grain of the material. So how do we choose our fabric? Now I have 2 threads I typically use for doing these repairs for denim. I have the darker medium blue. This is Performance X in a 30, Tex 30. And this is also medium blue in a Tex 30, but they're different colors. Okay, one's darker than the other. This is Performance X Plus. This is regular Performance X. So this one will take the thread. You probably won't be able to see on camera very well, but we're going to take the thread, lay it in the grain, and that's too dark. Okay, so that's not going to work for this pair. Now we're going to take the other thread, do the exact same thing, lay it in the grain, and that looks like that's going to be the better match. It blends in better, it's more invisible. It's still just a hair dark, so I might actually layer up. This is also Tex 30 Performance X brand. So it's polycore wrapped poly. It's really, really strong. And that is just a hair light, so I think that's going to be perfect. So what we're going to do is start with this one, and we're going to go over that and rebuild that fabric up with one layer of back and forth stitches, and then we'll go back over with the darker so it'll kind of pop through and do a gradient and blend all those fibers together. So now we're going to go over to our machine and get it set up for the thread. So here we're going to be using two different colors of thread, but I'm going to use the darker thread as the bobbin simply because it's already wound. I'm not going to switch out, but I will start with the lighter thread. So I'm going to put my bobbin in just as you typically would. Make sure it clicks. And then I already have my spools wound, and we're going to start with the lighter thread, and I'm about to thread it, and then we'll go switch over to the darker thread. Okay. So I'm going to wind this through the machine just as we typically would. Make sure the foot is lifted, the take-up lever is lifted, now we're going to thread the needle. And pull up our bobbin. Okay. Now I like to sew on a tester piece just to make sure that it is actually sewing. And then I'm going to move my dial to a 2.5 for pants. You'd think you'd want for denim to be a longer stitch length, but you don't, because you want those stitches to be really, really tight because we're rebuilding that fabric. I'm going to do a couple of test stitches. Make sure our tension is good and make sure everything's running well. And that seems to be all right, so we're going to get started. Now we're going to take the pair of pants we just did and we're going to follow that grain line. Okay, so we want to go up and down in the shape of the grain of the fabric. Make sure we don't have any weight pulling down on the fabric. Okay. And we're going to start at one of the corners, and I need to build down from here. Let's move you over a little hair. Build down from over here all the way up. So we're going to do this one stitch at a time. You can't go too fast or you'll risk breaking your thread because this is a thinner thread even though it is stronger. Okay, so we're going to do a few stitches, back stitch, and follow that grain. If you notice that your fibers are lifting up or anything like that, just stop, lift your foot, push those fibers down, whatever you need to do. We've glued them in place pretty well, so they shouldn't do that. But in case they do. And we're rebuilding those fibers in the pants, in the denim. Now, right where that pocket is, you want to make sure you're overlapping, and you definitely want to make sure you have a stronger stitch where the top of the pocket is going to be pulled on a lot. Okay, so I'm going to go back the other direction. Make sure we're definitely smoothing everything out, getting that pocket covered. Going a little faster over the edge, and then go back and forth, and we're going to cut. Pull it over, snip our bottom threads. And now we're going to rethread because this is just a hair too light and the other one's just a hair too dark. So now we're going to go over with the darker thread to reinforce that stitch and blend everything in a little bit better. Okay. So we're going to put this right back underneath the machine. Start in the exact same spot in the same direction. We're going to pull out our thread. Normally you'd want to snip your thread and then pull out in the same direction that your thread comes out, but since the tension discs are on the outside of the machine, I just pull it out. Put this back on the shelf. And now we're going to start with our darker color. Okay, so we're going to thread it exactly the same. Make sure our thread isn't twisted or in the wrong spot at any juncture in the threading. Take up lever is up. I'm using the knee lift to lift the needle and hold it when I need to lock down the thread fibers, or the threads. Okay, now we're going to thread the machine. Thread the needle. Went so well that first time. Okay, and now we're ready to do the second layer, technically third layer, with the darker color. Okay, I'm going to do the exact same procedure, do a few stitches, go back, lock that thread in, and then just go with our zigzag back and forth. And I'm going a little over, I'm overlapping those stitches so that gradient blends in. Just trying to keep those lines of the grain of the fabric straight. Hopefully you can see, or that's in the way. Okay, and as you will see here, we've got our patch on and the colors are blended. Now we're going to go blend it a little bit more. So we're going to take this back to the iron. Okay, and now that we've got our fabric lined up and stitched out, we're going to press over it, get rid of any of the distortions, the ballooning, the puckering. So using a lot of steam to let that kind of relax those fibers back down. And then I like to use a little bit more coarse of a brush. This is a softer wire brush. Now we're going to fluff up some of those fibers from the threads we just did. Okay. If you have any of the other fibers popping up, you can use a pair of embroidery shears to trim those down. Kind of give it a little shave. This will blend in the fibers into the threads you just sewed. Okay, this is like the secret sauce to getting it to blend better with when your fabric or your thread doesn't match your fabric perfectly. Okay. Just light pressure, I'm not pressing hard. And we went from a quite large hole to very, very blended, smooth. It's not a bulletproof patch, so you don't have that super thick square of patch behind there that's going to cause stiffness. There is a little more stiffness because we rebuilt that fabric, but the fabric still has movement. It'll move with you, and it'll even get softer as you wash it. So that's what that looks like. And then we'll sew the pocket back on and use a matching thread to sew that to cover that back up, and then that will be the finished result. So when it's sewed back on, you'll hardly even see it. Anyways, that's how I do the invisible patches. Hope that helps.